What's up, everyone? Coffee break here with another one. And, well, I need to get my thoughts on Sunday's game because yesterday's performance, even though the 49ers won, it really felt like a loss to a lot of fans. And I can understand why. Now, let's just talk about how the game ended, right? The 49ers allowed the Detroit Lions to climb back into that game just super late in that fourth quarter with like 4 minutes left. And there was some unfortunate events that took place that led up to that, which is now that we know Jason Verrett is out for the year. And it was a very emotional moment for Verrett, a guy who has battled these type of injuries. The 49ers took a flyer on him. He was able to somewhat stay healthy. Last year, he was able to stay healthy, which is why he's still here. And for that to happen to a guy like that, I mean, it just, there's no other way to describe it. It just sucks. And so, an emotional moment. A lot of fans at that time expected the worst. I mean, it did not look good. When a player reacts that way, it normally isn't that good. There was a moment of maybe there's a chance it's not that serious. He was able to walk off the field, but as you know, I'm sorry, there's humming noise coming from my AC. I don't know why. As he, limped to the locker room, he was still very emotional. So it was confirmed today that he's out for the year, so that sucks. Raheem Mostert only had like 2 carries in this game. He was out super early in this game. Seems like it's a knee cartilage issue. He's out 8 weeks. He's out half a year already. It's week 1. 2 guys who have battled injuries are back on the injured list. I mean, this really sucks from a Niners standpoint, right? Is it 2020 all over again? Well, there's a little bit of optimism, and we're going to talk about that here in a moment. The problem is, for fans, we're so accustomed to, especially in the Shanahan era, with these injuries. There's always 1 or 2 injured player every game, and it seems to really take a toll on the team. And they admitted to it after the game. Players, I don't know if they didn't have the focus or what, but it was evident that they allowed Detroit to climb back into that one. And there was already issues beforehand with the defense, but they really exposed them for what it really is right now. There's really a problem here, especially with the young defensive coordinator in DeMeco Ryans. So there's a lot to learn. There's definitely a lot of good. Let's talk about that. Let's just start with the good, even after I've given you like a couple of bad news already. But let's start with some good. Now, from the defense standpoint, one thing when watching the game, you just had to acknowledge the great young linebacker group that we have here with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shaair, who had his performance. I think him and Greenlaw, I think just were all over the place that game. I think Azeez really took a big step towards the right direction, and it was nice to see. It was nice to see Azeez make some plays out there, and you can see the confidence coming from that player. It was nice. Defensive line, Nick Bosa. Now, he wasn't really dominant. He did impact the game, but he wasn't like super dominant where he got like 2-3 sacks, right? Which a lot of people expected with rookie Penei Sewell at left tackle for the Lions. I should add to this. I was extremely impressed the way Penei Sewell came out and performed, given how what we saw in like preseason. His track record didn't look so good, especially the game against the Steelers. He really struggled, but in this game, he looked really good. Like he got beat a couple times, but for the most part, for the rookie, I thought he played well. Just my insight on that. But Nick Bosa really did. I mean, he got a sack in this game, a lot of tackle for loss, had a couple or a few actually tackles. So he looked like Nick Bosa, which was nice. D Ford also had a sack in this one. He impacted the game. I mean, the one that really stood out that kind of shocked me was Contavious Street, and he got another sack, and also he was I think he was called for against Detroit. He had caused a hold penalty, which really pushed Detroit back out of field goal range and impacted that drive. So I was really proud to see, for the most part, the edge, Samson Ebukam, another one. He's basically what sealed the win for us. So the edge players, I think, played outstanding. Now, not every defensive lineman played well, but we'll talk on those guys in a minute. Now, on offense, I want to talk about Elijah Mitchell, because he really stepped up for the 49ers in a moment where they needed him. He really stepped up. And Elijah Mitchell really, I just don't know what the Niners do at this point. They produce running backs out of thin air. I mean, this is incredible. And he looked fast. He looked physical. He was outstanding. I can see why Shanahan picked him maybe over Sermon. And we'll talk about Sermon here in a little bit. And we'll talk about what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. But, man, I was really impressed. That run, I mean, that touchdown run he had, yeah, the hole was super open, but he had to make a man miss. He did, and he was able to take it the distance. I'm really impressed with Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, the Mostert thing sucks, but running back is an area where we can afford some leeway. The Verrett injury really sucks because we don't have that depth there, which is why a lot of fans are concerned about that, and I get it. Elijah Mitchell looked good. Even Hasty looked well. I mean, he didn't have a lot of carries in this one. He did have a touchdown as well in the red zone, but he was in a lot of passing plays and put his nose when the blitz defender was coming. I think he played well. Offensive line, the protection was outstanding in this game. The Niners only allowed one sack. I think that one sack was off a corner blitz, which was unexpected. But offensive line didn't allow a sack. They barely allowed any pressure. And Detroit has a really good defensive line. I mean, not as dominant as the Niners, but that's one of their strengths. And they were able to minimize that. I mean, in the run game, Kittle, Trent Williams, Brunskill, the whole entire offensive line were throwing bodies. They were really catching bodies. They really, they take that to a whole nother meaning in football. They're catching bodies there. It was nice to see, man. Offensive line really stepped up. And then quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Let me give you some stats on Jimmy. He was 17 of 25, threw for 314 yards, a touchdowns. And the key one here, which I think will be a key takeaway in each game to see what Jimmy does. 0 interceptions. Did have that muffed snap to start the game, which, oh my God, what a way to start the season, right? But after that, he played clean. And that's all. That's all we need. We need him to play as clean as possible, minimize turnovers, and I think that's the Niners' strength. They ran the football. They were able to, just outside of that turnover with Jimmy. Now, there's other turnovers we need to talk about, but I feel like Jimmy did a good job there. And then let's talk about Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. Those were our leading receivers in this one. Deebo had 9 receptions, 189 yards, really dominant. George Kittle, 4 receptions, 78 yards. So just a normal day for Kittle. But he was also impacting like the running game, blocking. I mean, incredible. So that's the good. that came out from Sunday's game. Now let's talk about the bad, because there is a ton of bad to get to. We talked about defensive line. Let's talk about Kevin Givens, Zach Kerr. I feel like when those two were in the game, we were getting gashed with Lions running right up the middle. They need to step up. They need to really step up and control the line of scrimmage. Those two were just giving up too much inside. And so that's really what stood out to me. Ambry Thomas, he did have a couple of kick returns, didn't do much. He looked kind of slow, to be honest with you. Ambry Thomas looks slow. It looks like the game speed is still too fast for him. And from a guy who didn't play last year, maybe that's the reason. But he was also, when they subbed him in at corner late in that game, they were targeting him. I mean, he allowed like 3 receptions just in that short amount of time. He has a lot of work to do. He hasn't. And let me tell you something else. Speaking of Ambry Thomas, let's just connect Trey Sermon to this, right? Because I believe both of them are 3rd-round picks, if I recall. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong. I believe both of them are 3rd-round picks. Both of those did not start. Trey Sermon didn't even suit up. Now, Trey Sermon, Kyle Shanahan said that Elijah Mitchell, Hasty, Mostert obviously, beat him out. Which is surprising to me because I didn't hear about this in training camp. Like, there wasn't any conversation from any of the beat writers that Trey Sermon was moving down the depth chart. There seems to be something else going on. Same with Brandon Ayuk. No one ever mentioned that, which is shocking to me because you would think, like, that's newsworthy. But that wasn't brought up. That was kind of weird. A lot of people assumed Trey Sermon would be the second running back. So to my surprise, Elijah Mitchell, I mean, he was hurt for most of training camp, if I recall. He hardly practiced. He did late. Finally got into the 3rd preseason game, I believe. Played well. I knew he was going to make the team. I thought he had the talent. I never thought that he would jump to the 2nd depth chart. Like, that was a surprise to me. I'm not saying it's wrong that Shanahan did it. It was just never reported for whatever reason. So Ambry Thomas not playing well. Trey Sermon not suiting up. Something is going on there. And then we talk about Brandon Ayuk, right? Brandon Ayuk, who did have a punt return, didn't do much, but after that it was like Sanu taking punt returns. Something's going on there. Again, Shanahan's basically said that Trent Sherfield beat him out. Again, I know Trent Sherfield, and I'm really proud of this guy. He had a touchdown catch in this one by none other Trey Lance, who we didn't even talk about. Trey Lance, touchdown, but I felt like Shanahan tried to force him in a little bit. But we'll see. Trey Lance will develop, and I believe he'll contribute more later in the season. But first pass, a touchdown pass to Trent Sherfield, doesn't get any better than that. And Trent Sherfield beating him out doesn't get past me, but what does get past me is that Brandon Ayuk, a number 1 first round draft pick last year, is your backup. What's going on? Something's going on that we haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet. It's really weird. The Trey Sermon, the Brandon Ayuk thing, it's weird. It smells fishy. I don't know if that's the complete honest truth. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And maybe Shanahan is really true to his word when he says, I'm going to play the best player that's going to allow us to win. And if that's the case, then that's disappointing for Brandon Ayuk. That should not happen at all. Now, if it was for disciplinary reasons, I can understand that. Like, I don't know, he didn't go to a team meeting and they don't want to throw it out there. Okay, but it's still not a good look. I think there's more to the story, and I think we should stay tuned to that. But yeah, I can understand why this win felt like a loss. This was a team who should have dominated from beginning to end. And when you look at the stats too, we talk about the 49ers being on the road, having 12 more total yards than the Lions, having less passing yards, having like 15 more rushing yards, having more penalties, more turnovers. The Lions beat us in time of possession. When you look at those numbers, you're like, man, how do we win this game, right? Without even watching the game, you're looking at those numbers, that box score, you're like, wait, the Niners won this game? They had less time of possession. They had more turnovers, more penalties. The total yards are almost the same. It doesn't make sense. The Lions had more first downs. And we're on the road. It's weird. Yeah, because we dominate. And what really stands out is the yards per play. Niners are like 8, while the Lions are like 5. So it takes more plays for them to move up the field. But still a weird game. Week ones are always weird. But the Niners have a big test coming up because the Eagles look fantastic week 1. Again, this is just week 1, but the Niners they have a lot of work. And with all of the teams in the NFC West winning, they have their work cut out. Confidence level right now is declining from a lot of fans. Let's just wait and see how they respond. As always, guys, catch you on the next one. Peace.